let me lay out a potential Big 12 for you. And I want to know, how do you think this measures up with what we just discussed, the scenario we just discussed? So basically you'd have 3 divisions in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
And if you played a championship game, you just have to take the top 2 overall. But you group it in the Big 12 West, which would be Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, Oregon, Utah, and Washington.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad cohort.
It's not a bad. Yeah, it's not.
It's not elite. It's not elite, but it's not bad. Big 12 East. Cincy, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, West Virginia, UCF. Again, not elite, but it's not bad.
It's decent.
Big 12 Southwest. Baylor, Colorado, Houston, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU. Again, not elite, but it's not bad. So that in and of itself, does it maintain the power conference prestige?
Big 12, if they do that, the Big 12 essentially just becomes like a mixture of the American Conference and the Pac-12. Like it gives me it becomes the new Pac-12, essentially. Like how we view the Pac-12 now is, if that turns into that, it's just how the Big 12 just replaces the Pac-12 and how we view it. Which I think with that type of teams, that type of pedigree, so it's not elite, like you said, but it's good. Every now and then they'll give you a really good team. I think they get to keep their power reference per se, but they're the little brother on the block. But I think that's good enough because if you look back at it, like you said, so to me, those final 3 that you named are the biggest ones. If they can lock in Oregon, if they can lock in Utah, and if they can lock in UW, I think better than Arizona, Arizona State, and whomever. If you can just get those 3, I like the Big 12. They actually don't have to add those 6. If they add those 3, I think that's enough. Because you said some teams that I completely forgot about. TCU, we can see with Sonny Dykes. And we got to remember the TCU in the early 2000s with Andy Dalton and those guys, good, went to the Rose Bowl, like good team. And if Sonny Dykes can recruit high there, that's great. U of H, they've been on the up and up for some time, but it's like they're arriving. Cincy, Fickle, it looks like Fickle's going to stick. I think he likes Cincinnati. I think he likes the move to the Big 12. I think he likes that there's more revenue coming in. That's good. Baylor, come on, like what they're doing down there in that program. I think if you just snag the top 3 that's kind of left out of the Pac-12, well, name-wise, I think that's good enough for the Big 12 where you're like, because I don't scoff at Oregon. I don't scoff at Utah. Clearly what we just saw in the Rose Bowl this year, man, and what they did, went toe-to-toe with Ohio State, was amazing. And they play tough defense. They got a good enough offense. We know what Oregon's known for, and especially with the new coach they just got out of Georgia. Like, if he does we think he can do at Oregon, Trey, that's not bad. And they don't, in my opinion, if they not grab those 3, they don't need Arizona. Like, I would toss them and say, Mountain West, y'all can have them. Like, technically, the Big 12, in my opinion, doesn't need them. They just need to get the remaining Big 3 out of the Pac-12.
But I think we're also entering a time where there's going to be something to be said for strength in numbers.
Yep, true.
So if you could get an Arizona, because look, it's not this elite blue blood history, but Arizona has a good football history, and they're definitely going to add value on the basketball side of things.
Which is still a revenue-generating sport.
Yes. Arizona State, same type of deal. They don't have this elite, illustrious football history, but they've got some history. I mean, Jake Plummer, I remember the era Jake Plummer, and I mean, they had a squad, just like Arizona had a squad when they had the defense with Teddy Bruschi. And I can't remember who else was on that team, but I mean, they were like a top 5 team at one point in time. The team here that I think could really start to become more and more nationally prominent is BYU.
Oh, yeah.
They have a history.
They do.
Right? Now, most of their history came as an independent. And whether you agree with it or not, they have a national championship.
They do.
From as a WAC conference team, which is why a lot of people disagree with it. But I think BYU is a team that could become more and more elite in this type of framework. Of course, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you've got Cincy, Central Florida with what Malzahn's starting to build. We've seen what they can do, at least as an American athletic team. I don't know, man. The more and more I look at it, the more I like it. I think the big difference, I like your comparison where you said it's kind of a hybrid of the American and the Pac-12, and then with this format, it'll pretty much replace how we view the Pac-12 now. The big difference is they're just missing a true blue blood.
Well, here's what I think I want to say to this. And this is my point about the whole thing, why I actually agree with the realignment. I've really been thinking about it. My initial perspective was I hated it. But this is why I'm liking it. And if your boys in the Big 12 can actually make this move, this is why I love it. College football has an exciting game problem. This is what I mean. And I'm stealing this from Colin Cowherd, so I got to give credit. It wasn't my original thought. I'm stealing this from him. But he made such a valiant point. He was like, opening week in college football this year has 95 football games. There's only 2 that we care about seeing. He's not lying. And I forget which games they were opening weekend, but there was only
3
2.
because it's whoever your team's playing.
Right. And then the other 2. And then he's like, the next week, there's 115 games playing. We only care about 2, Bama and Texas and whatever the other elite game.
I think Georgia, Miami might be
Georgia,
playing.
something like that. I think if the Big 12 can pull that off, they now give us what we really care about in college football terms. Because think about this. Like, we care about what time our team plays. So for me, this is Brandon Holmes. I know Michigan plays at noon. I don't care who they play. I'm going to watch. Normally, I sleep past the 3 o'clock game, which with my current work schedule is going to work. I'm like, no good game rarely comes on the 3 o'clock slot. Then we care about the night game slot. So we really only look for, like you said, 3 games a week. With this conference realignment, and if the Big 12 can pull this off, which I agree, now there's strength in numbers, you're now giving us what we want. I would watch BYU versus Utah. I will watch Oregon versus Utah because we saw what happened this past year. I would watch. I'm trying to think who else is in that conference. If Baylor gets good again, well, if they stay good, like what are they are? Baylor, Oregon, that's a dang good game.
Absolutely.
Baylor, Utah, that's a dang good game. If Sonny Dykes can turn TCU, Baylor, that's a really good game. Oh wait, and I haven't even touched Cincinnati. Oregon versus Cincinnati, defense versus high-powered offense. I watch that. Utah versus. I'd watch that. That gives me some at least 7 high quality games out of a 13 game season. So that now when I'm looking at it, the Big 12, if they want to stay relevant, they have to make, because if you go to the same thing what you said, if Notre Dame, if they go to the ACC, you split the conference, and Miami and Florida State gets good, I know I get the traditional Miami versus Notre Dame quote unquote rivalry. We know that whole fiasco, the history. That's a good game. Notre Dame versus Florida State. That's a dang good game. Notre Dame versus Clemson. That's a dang good game. Miami versus Clemson. That's a great game. You go to the Big Ten now. Michigan, UCLA, great game. Ohio State, UCLA, amazing game. Like, I think the Big 12, if they want to, because dare I say, whatever Notre Dame does affects the whole landscape.
It does.
But if the Big 12 can steal Washington, Oregon, and Utah at the least, they now, I think, push themselves in pole position to at least have a little bit to bring to the table and say, yes, we don't have the traditional blue blood, but we have 7 or 8 marquee games this year that people who love the sport would actually watch.
Yeah, I mean, give me a BYU UCF. Let's market this as the knockoff brand of Miami Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Like, that's the great value brand that you're still going to eat. You're still going to get it because it's affordable and it kind of tastes the same, even though it tastes a little different. Okay, so here's another thought on all that. with this format for the Big 12, they could literally fill every time slot on the Saturday agenda.
Exactly.
And here's what that does. Because it's funny, you as a Big Ten fan, how you just kind of laid out your watch plan for Saturdays. SEC fans, we typically don't care about the morning slate.
Right.
We start gearing up for that 2:30 slate
to late
and
slate.
then into the evening.
Yep.
And then every single true college football fan finds themselves every Saturday around midnight watching whatever Pac-12 game is left on. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen asleep to Utah, BYU, or how many times I've fallen asleep to Hawaii, Arizona. You put the Big 12 in that slate as well.
Yep.
Because you can fill your morning games with the East Coast.
Yep.
You can fill your prime time or afternoon, evening games with the Southwest, and you can fill your late games with the West Coast. And at some point in time, you're going to get viewership just by default.